February 26, 1959. A search party climbs a windswept slope in the Ural Mountains and finds a tent half buried in snow. It has been sliced open from the inside. 9 experienced hikers fled into the polar night, into minus 30-degree cold. Some of them barefoot. What they were running from has never been fully explained. Not in 67 years. Welcome back to the Curiosity Department, where we pull history's strangest files and hold them up to the light. Today's file, the Dyatlov Pass incident, quite possibly the most baffling unsolved mystery of the 20th century. Fair warning, 9 real people died on that mountain, so we'll do this properly. No cheap thrills, just the facts. Which, honestly, are strange enough. January 1959. 10 students and graduates of the Ural Polytechnic Institute set out on a 16-day ski trek through the northern Urals. Their leader, 23-year-old Igor Dyatlov, smart, meticulous, experienced. This was no casual hike. The route was rated Category 3, the hardest classification that existed at the time, and every one of them had done this kind of thing before. Their goal was a peak called Otterten. And here's your first eyebrow raiser. In the language of the local Mansi people, the mountain they would camp beneath is called Kholat Syakhl. Translation, dead mountain. To be fair, it most likely just means nothing grows up there. Still, not a great omen. On January 28th, one member, Yuri Yudin, turned back with joint pain. That decision saved his life. He said goodbye to his 9 friends and became the last person to see them alive. The rest skied on into the wilderness, carrying cameras and diaries that would later tell us almost everything about their final days. Almost. And this is what makes the case so haunting. We can watch them. The film and their cameras survived. Here they are, laughing, hamming it up for the lens, carving through birch forest in high spirits. The diaries read like any student trip. Inside jokes, songs, a little drama about who fancies who. Completely, achingly normal. On February 1st, they made a decision experts still argue about. Instead of dropping into the sheltered tree line for the night, they pitched their tent on the open slope of Kholat Syakhl, exposed at roughly 1,100 meters. Dyatlov may have wanted to avoid losing altitude. Whatever the reason, they dug into the snow, ate dinner, and at some point that night, everything went wrong. One of the final frames on their film shows the crew cutting into the snow to level a platform for the tent. After that, the cameras go quiet. The next photographs of that tent would be taken by the men who came looking for them. The group was due to send a telegram around February 12th. Nothing came. At first, nobody panicked. Treks ran late all the time, but by the 20th, families were demanding action. Volunteer searchers, then police, then the military joined the hunt. On February 26th, they found the tent. And this is where the file gets strange. The tent was partially collapsed and buried, but intact. And it had been cut open from the inside in several places, as if the door wasn't fast enough. Inside, 9 sets of boots, warm coats, food, tools, money, cameras, all neatly in place. Whatever made 9 seasoned hikers slash their way out of their own tent, they left everything behind and walked into a subarctic night, most of them without shoes. Below the tent, searchers found footprints, 8 or 9 sets, heading down toward the tree line. And here's the detail that rules out half the easy explanations. The tracks were calm, orderly, single file, not the frantic scatter of people fleeing an attacker. They walked together, away from their only shelter. About 500 meters down, the tracks vanished under fresh snow. At the tree line, under a towering cedar, searchers found the remains of a small fire, and the first 2 hikers, Yuri Doroshenko and Yuri Krivonishchenko. They were barefoot, in their underwear. Branches on the cedar were snapped off up to 5 meters high, as if someone had climbed it, maybe to look back at the tent. Maybe to look for something else. Between the cedar and the tent, 3 more were found, Igor Dyatlov among them, each frozen in a posture that suggested the same thing. They died trying to crawl back up the slope, into the wind. toward the tent. The official cause for all 5, hypothermia. Tragic, but explainable. Soviet investigators might have closed the file right there, except 4 hikers were still missing. Quick pause, pop quiz. How cold do you think it was on that slope the night they left the tent? -10, -20, -30. Try somewhere between -25 and -30 before wind chill. At those temperatures, barefoot on snow, you have minutes. Every one of them knew that. They went anyway. Hold that thought. 2 months later, in May, the snow began to melt. In a ravine 75 meters past the cedar, under 4 meters of snow, searchers found the last 4, and everything about the case changed. Nikolai Thibault Brignol had a fractured skull. Semyon Zolotaryov and Lyudmila Dubinina had crushed chests. Injuries, one examiner compared to the force of a car crash, and yet almost no external wounds to match. Dubinina was missing her tongue and eyes. Zolotaryov, his eyes, grim, though forensics will tell you that's sadly common for remains lying months in running meltwater. Stranger, some of the 4 were wearing clothes taken from the first victims, and when investigators ran tests, a few garments showed traces of radioactivity. Why was anyone testing for radiation in the first place? Good question. It has never been answered. The Soviet inquest closed the case in May 1959 with a phrase that did more to fuel conspiracy theories than any cover-up could. The hikers died, it said, from an unknown compelling force. Case closed. Files archived. The area was reportedly off-limits to skiers for 3 years. And for the next 6 decades, everyone from physicists to filmmakers has tried to name that force. Theory 1. An avalanche. It explains the fast exit and the crush injuries. Problem. The slope was only about 20 degrees, gentle, for a slide. The tent wasn't swept away. The tracks led calmly downhill. For decades, the avalanche theory was the one serious people were almost embarrassed to defend. Then, in 2021, 2 scientists, using snow simulation methods partly developed for the movie Frozen, showed that a small, delayed slab avalanche was plausible. The hikers cut into the slope to pitch the tent. Wind piled fresh snow above the cut for hours, and a compact slab dropped onto the tent while they slept, heavy enough to injure, terrifying enough to cut your way out. It's now the leading explanation, and Russia's official one, after prosecutors reopened the case in 2019. Case solved then? Not so fast. Skeptics note that no avalanche debris was ever reported, and the 4 with the worst injuries were found far from the tent. So, the alternatives live on. Katabatic winds, sudden hurricane-force air that makes staying put impossible, infrasound from wind vortices, inducing panic humans can't explain. Secret military tests, remember the radioactive clothing and the glowing orange orbs other hikers reported in the sky that night. And yes, some people say, Yeti, we report. You decide. One more chilling detail science can explain. Several victims were found undressed, and severe hypothermia does that. It's called paradoxical undressing. As you freeze, your blood vessels suddenly dilate, and you feel like you're burning up. People tear off their clothes in the snow. It's not a mystery, it's just horrifying. So, here's where the file stands. A slab of snow, a killing cold, and a chain of desperate, rational decisions. That's the boring version, and it's probably mostly true, but mostly is doing a lot of work. Why was the tent slit in multiple places? Why walk, not run? Why the radiation? 67 years on, Dyatlov Pass still won't give up its last answer. The pass now carries their leader's name, and 9 names are carved in stone near the cedar. So, what do you think happened on Dead Mountain that night? A slab avalanche? The wind? Something the files never mention? Drop your verdict in the comments. The best theory gets pinned. And if you enjoyed this trip into the archive, subscribe. The Curiosity Department is open late, and the next file is already on the desk. Thanks for watching.